This is Horror Podcast.
Welcome to This is Horror, a podcast for readers, writers, and creators. I'm Michael David Wilson, and every episode alongside my co-host Bob Pastorella, we chat with the world's best writers about writing, life lessons, creativity, and much more. Today we are chatting to Stephen Graham Jones about the re-release of his fantastic book, Night of the Mannequins. Now this marks the first time in over 3 years that Stephen has been on the podcast for an in-depth conversation. And let me tell you, we need to talk more often because this was fantastic. Now for those of you not in the know, Stephen Graham Jones is a Blackfoot Native American author of experimental fiction, horror fiction, crime fiction, and science fiction. His books include Don't Fear the Reaper, My Heart is a Chainsaw, The Only Good Indians, Mongrels, The Elvis Room, which we released at This Is Horror as a special limited edition chapbook, and of course the aforementioned Night of the Mannequins. So we will get Stephen on the show in a moment, but before then, a quick advert break.
From the host of This Is Horror Podcast comes a dark thriller of obsession, paranoia, and voyeurism. After relocating to a small coastal town, Brian discovers a hole that gazes into his neighbor's bedroom. Every night she dances and he peeps. Same song, same time, same wild and mesmerizing dance. But soon Brian suspects he's not the only one watching, and she's not the only one being watched. Their watching is The Wicker Man meets Body Double with a splash of Suspiria. Their Watching by Michael David Wilson and Bob Pastorella is available from thisishorror.co.uk, Amazon, and wherever good books are sold.
It was as if the video had unzipped my skin, slunk inside my tapered flesh, and become one with me.
From the creator of This Is Horror comes a new nightmare for the digital age, The Girl in the Video by Michael David Wilson. After a teacher receives a weirdly arousing video, his life descends into paranoia and obsession. More videos follow, each containing information no stranger could possibly know. But who's sending them, and what do they want? The answers may destroy everything and everyone he loves. The Girl in the Video is The Ring meets Fatal Attraction for the iPhone generation. Available now in paperback, ebook, and audio.
Okay, with that said, here it is. It is Stephen Graham Jones on This Is Horror. Stephen, welcome back to This Is Horror.
Man, I'm thrilled to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes, I believe the last time that we spoke, it was around 2.5 years ago. So I wonder, what have been the biggest changes for you both personally and professionally in that time?
Man, yeah, let me think. Accrued various injuries. That's probably the personal thing, you know. I'm always in ice and all kinds of pills and drugs, you know, just when you do stupid stuff, you get hurt. So I get hurt a lot. Professionally, let me think. I'm teaching at Stanford right now. That's different. I was at CU Boulder last I talked to you. I'm just out here spot teaching for a while, but it's pretty cool living in California.
Yeah, what brought you to Stanford?
Oh, just to come teach they have these this program, the Wallace Stegner program, and they have Stegner Fellows. It's kind of like a postdoc in fiction, and so it's students who generally already have a terminal degree coming to write a book, basically. And so I work with them. It's a good time.
So how much of your time are you spending in Stanford kind of area, and how much are you then spending back in Boulder, Colorado?
None in Boulder. I haven't been to Boulder for a while. I won't be back in Boulder.
Okay.
Yeah, until, I think I get back there May, maybe the end of April, something like that.
So are you now living in California?
I am. Yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah.
does that, as well as the teaching, does that bring any other opportunities regarding the writing? I mean, obviously, California and Hollywood is the capital in terms of film and cinema.
Yeah. It's just different people I have lunch with because, it seems like I have so many friends who live in all these little towns around here, the San Jose, San Carlos, everything is saying something out here. And I keep finding more and more people that I know. So it's a good time. And I'm doing a little, kind of like a mini tour out here on the West Coast starting, I don't know, in a week and a half or something like that for Mannequins.
Yeah. And I mean, in terms of Mannequins, so it originally came out a few years back, and now it's been re-released with a brand new cover, which looks awesome, by the way.
I know, they did good.
Yeah. I'm wondering, why is it being re-released and why now?
I guess anytime a publisher does something, it's because they think there's a market for it. They think that this book can find a new audience. We can repackage it. It's got everything is the same on the inside. It does have that new wrapper, the new cover, and it was Tor.com, and now it's Nightfire. So it's got a different team behind it as well. I'm lucky. I'm getting to work with Kelly Lonesome. She was my editor for Mongrels back in 2016. So that's really cool.
So does this mean that there were some editorial changes that were made?
I don't think we didn't. I mean, Mannequins was in place already, and it's kind of like a Jenga tower of a book. And I'm afraid if I pull one thing out, it's going to fall down.
Yeah. No, I can certainly see that. And there's a lot of meta layers to it. There's there's a hell of a lot of misdirection, and goodness, we're going to get into all of that. But I suppose to set the stage, what is the origin story? Why did you originally sit down and write this one?
I wrote Mapping the Interior for Ellen Datlow in 2016, and it took me 4 days. And so in 2017, maybe 2018, probably 2018, Ellen Datlow called me up and she said, "Hey, why don't you do another novella for me? Mapping did pretty well." And I looked at my calendar. I thought, I got 4 days, And so I sat down to jam out another novella real fast. But I screwed up and I went 4 weeks instead of 4 days, and I wrote a novel, and that novel was Killer on the Road. No, that was, I think it was Babysitter Lives first. I wrote Babysitter Lives in that month. And I thought, well, that was weird. So I pushed it to the side and said, time to write a novella for Ellen Datlow. And so I screwed up again. Instead of going 4 days, I went 4 weeks, and I wrote Killer on the Road. And I was thinking, man, have I lost my novella muscles? I don't understand what's going on. So I pushed it to the side, and I told myself, this time you're going to stop at 115 pages, whether it's over or not. You're going to call it a novella. And so I wrote for 115 pages and stopped and found a line that was like a kind of a graceful exit and a ramp. But then I realized I could add one more line to this novella and it would open up into a novel. And so I called up my literary agent, BJ Robbins, and I said, "Hey, I just wrote that thing for Ellen Datlow. Do you want me to keep it a novella or turn it into a novel?" And she said, "Go ahead and turn it into a novel. Those are easier to sell." So I wrote the rest of that book. It probably took like, I don't know, 6 weeks, 8 weeks total. And that was The Only Good Indians. But then I pushed it to the side immediately, and I said, I got to get that. I was still way before deadline, but I was way late for me, for getting Ellen Datlow this novella. And so then I sat down, and the title Night of the Mannequins came to me, and I thought, I'll do a version of Night of the Living Dead just with mannequins. That'll be fun. But then that first line happened, and I realized this was not a Night of the Living Dead type story. This is not like a horde of shambling mannequins coming up Main Street or anything. This is kind of a slasher from the other side, and it was really fun. I liked it a lot, and it probably did take me, I don't know, 3 weeks. I have no memory. It's been so long, but it was probably like a 2 or 3 week book, I bet.
I love that the origin story basically starts with you inadvertently writing 3 novels before you could write this novella. And I mean, I think something that will be particularly interesting as we delve into the craft here is you're talking about writing novellas in 4 days. You're talking about writing novels in 4 weeks. So can we get a little bit more detail as to what that looks like? Are you planning them? Are you just kind of going for it as you would on your motorcycle?
Yeah, I'm just, or my bicycle. Yeah, I'm just going for it. I have none of those books I wrote. Babysitter Lives, Killer on the Road, The Only Good Indians. I had zero idea where any of those were going. Like Good Indians, I thought it was a novella until I had to write 2 more parts for it, And Night of the Mannequins, I had no idea how that was going to go. And I knew that since there was kind of a small friend group, I thought, well, that'll be like like my supports throughout the timeline of this novel. Like we'll have somebody die here, die here, die here, but I had no idea who was going to die next, how they were going to die. Yeah, so I have no planning whatsoever. And to tell you the truth, I don't write that much. Like I don't sit at a computer for 8 hours and write. I found that my ideal writing session time is about maybe an hour and 40 minutes. After that, I can keep writing for 10 hours, no problem. But I'm going to have to throw like 8.5 hours away or just do so much work to rehab it that it's not worth it, So I'll write for an hour and a half, then I'll go ride my bike for 2 or 3 hours, and I'll come back and write for another hour and a half, then I'll go play pool for a couple hours. And just, I like to cut it up and do other stuff. Or really when I'm writing books, I like to watch Magnum PI and Rockford Files. That's my 2 favorite things, man.
So, I mean, really what we're talking about for a novella, then I'm guessing we're looking at between 4.5 or 6 hours per day, depending on how you've kind of split it up.
Yeah.
And then does that get you your first draft, or are we or have we, because I know that you write quickly. There's multiple drafts that you've done in those 4 days.
No, it's not multiple drafts, but both Mapping the Interior and Night of the Mannequins came out pretty much whole. I believe Ellen Dello had a few questions for me that I answered in the story of Mapping the Interior, and there were probably some little things with Night of the Mannequins, but there was no big overhauls at all. It was what it was. Like when something's that short to me, I think, well, if it's broken, I'll just throw it away. I don't need to put all the work into fixing it. I'm not. I mean, I do revision. I'm in revision right now for another thing, but I so prefer to write new things than revising. Revising to me is just torture. I don't like it even a little bit, man.
Yeah, and I would certainly say as well, from my experience and from chatting to other people, it just seems the more that we write, the less we have to revise anyway, because we kind of get a sense as to rhythm and composition and how to put all of this together.
Yeah, but it's not to say I don't screw up every single paragraph, because I do, not just typos, but like I make bad decisions. And so like I might write a 120-page novella, but talking about like revising while you go, which I always kind of question that. People say they edit as they go. I understand what they're saying, but I just call that writing. I don't call it revising as I go. It's just how you get forward. But since I don't know where I'm going in a story, then I have to try every alley. And some of those alleys are going to be dead ends. And so I have to back out of it and go back 12 pages and cut that out and then go forward again from that last branch point. So there's a whole lot of that in my novels and novellas and my stories as well. But the result of that is it helps me flesh out the world, because those dead ends let me explore other parts of the story that then kind of exert a gravity on the main line and make it more real and stable. And I think it's all good. It seems it's a lot of work, but nobody said it'd be easy. I just try to keep it fun,
I feel like that, especially with this one here, that you always have the sense of momentum that if I could capture and if I could capture it and bottle it, I probably wouldn't sell it. I'd drink it all for myself. But to me, it's like the revision process would ruin that sense of momentum. It's like you have to pop back and go, wait a second, I have to fix this. And I'm a discovery writer, just like yourself. And so I loved it. To me, that's like Zen, is when I don't even have to think, when the words are just flowing. Now, obviously, you're going to go back and reread it, and a lot of times you might go, "Well, man, what the hell was I thinking? What was I doing?" But man, that moment, that momentum, you have to capture it.
Oh, I know. I totally agree.
Kill it every time.
It can't. Yeah, if you slow down, if you ever start like second guessing yourself, then you might as well just go do something else for the day. I think, because you've got to like pretend like you're good enough to do this. That's what I've always found. Like you put a foot pump on your ego and you pump it up, and it'll last as long as like an hour and 40 minutes. And then you write something, and then it deflates, and you have to go do something else, and you find the pump again and pump it up like you're big enough to wrestle with beauty or art or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's something I was telling someone else a couple months ago, is that, the writers that I admire, they put their whole chest into it. And so that's, and that's, you can sense it when you see it on the page. It's like, man, they are going into this 100%, and you have to have that confidence.
Yeah, that's why, I think that's why Philip K. Dick is usually my favorite writer, because everything he does, I feel like he put his whole heart into it. Everything feels sincere, like I think he started out, he would get an assignment to write a novel over the next 3 days that he had to turn in really quick, 60,000 words or something. And so he'd jump into that with both feet, and he'd think this is just going to be a lark. But then it feels like 25 pages in, he's like, oh no, it's real again. I got to write my way out of this, and I really appreciate that a lot. That's what I always feel like in my things I'm writing is I've got to keep going fast because it's collapsing behind me, and I just got to run,
And I think something as well that we should note is, you're talking about the way you divide your day up, but we've said so many times that these times where we're not writing or we're taking a breather, even if you're not conscious of it, there's things going on in the background and in the unconsciousness. I've actually found before that the days where I try to do like an 8-hour slog, slog is the right word. It is not easy, and I'm actually less productive, or at least less creative. But if I decide, okay, I'm taking a breather, I'm going for a walk, ideas and story solutions, they come to me. So I'm working on the story when I'm not working on the story.
No, you're totally right. Like, put it on the back burner and it'll simmer on its own. That's what I found. But what I have found is when I hit the trail between writing sessions or I'm playing pool or whatever, if I listen to podcasts or audio novels, the story is not simmering as much. If I listen to music or nothing, then I'm thinking, But if I'm thinking about, like, some esoteric podcast that's talking about film or an audio novel that I love, a story I love, then that kind of uses the same muscles I was using when I was writing, And so what I've got to do is let those muscles do their own thing. And, but luckily there's lots of good music, so it's not a big deal,
Yeah, I've never thought about it in those terms before, but that's exactly the way it is for me. And so either what will happen if I'm listening to an audiobook, then either I'm not thinking about my own writing, or I'll realize that 20 minutes have gone past and I haven't a clue what's going on in this audiobook because I've been thinking about something else.
For sure, man. For sure. Yeah.
But I mentioned the misdirection, and you certainly alluded to this, because the misdirection begins with the title, Night of the Mannequins. First of all, it conjures up this kind of George A. Romero or kind of B-movie horror, but it actually isn't at all. What you're doing, what you're doing, it's difficult to talk about without jumping into to spoilers. So we are going to have to skirt around it, but it's very much a different piece, a more serious piece, I would say.
Yeah, it's when I'm doing something that's like over the top violent, then I always want to like counterbalance it with some sense of tenderness or wonder or something like that. Because things that are just unremittingly grim, I have to ask myself, why would somebody want to engage that? They want a beating heart in the middle somewhere. And so that's kind of the fun part of horror to me. I love to splash blood on the walls, but I like to sneak feelings in as well,
Yeah, and then the second part of misdirection is sentence number 1. So Shanna got a new job at the movie theater. We thought we'd play a fun prank on her, and now most of us are dead, and I'm really starting to feel kind of guilty about it all. First of all, what a fucking amazing hook.
Oh, thank you.
And I need to ask, what is your approach to writing hooks and opening sentences? And is this also one of the kind of parts where you spend the longest amount of time just thinking or looking at that blank page? Because you nailed it.
No, thank you very much. Hook lines, yes, sometimes you have to wait for them. Generally, Though what I try to do is just sit down at the keyboard with a completely empty mind, a blank slate, and I just kind of let my fingers figure something out, and they figure it out. And all I've got to do is not delete it. It's hard not to delete stuff because you want to say that wasn't good enough. I could have done better. But that's how Night of the Mannequins happened. Like that, I think that's how I did Long Trial of Nolan Dugatti too. I had no idea what the novel was going to be, and I sit down, and the first line of that is what I remember best about my father are the suicide notes, and that gave me the structure of the whole book right there. And like this little preview that Sawyer's given kind of sketches it gestures at a space we're going to walk into, and I wonder, right around this time I was teaching I think I taught a lecture class, a creative writing, kind of an intro to creative writing, but it was for a big classroom. And I went through and kind of created I don't know what you call it, a taxonomy or something of different types of opening lines. And previews like this were one of them. It's a really common one people do. Like 100 Years of Solitude does it really well. And there's all kinds of different ones. There's ones that are really shocking and that like jolt you out of your seat. I got to know the rest of that. And I forget what they all are. I've got a list of them, or I've got a big slideshow of them somewhere. It's really fun. I love to think about hook lines. I think the best writer of hook lines in novels is for my money, it's Toni Morrison. Like every time she put pen to paper at the front of a book, she struck gold,
Somebody brought up at a conference one time hook lines.
Mm-hmm.
And it made me want to read the books. And like probably the most memorable one is in one of John D. McDonald's books and one of his Travis McGee novels.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, I was like, because this just makes you want to read more. It's like we were about to call that a night when someone dropped the girl off the bridge.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
wow.
shit.
Wow.
Okay, where are you? What do you mean?
Yeah.
I was like, what do you mean? And you just keep on going, and you realize, you get. But golly, I mean, it's like, hey, I'm going to crank your motor right now.
Mm-hmm.
Press start and go.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I mean, I want to be able to put that on the page, but a different way.
Yeah. Oh, I 100% agree. I just pulled up my slideshow. I've got a lot of my favorite ones here. I won't read them all to you, but I think one of the most famous ones we have in the world of novels is probably Call Me Ishmael. That Moby Dick. It's so good because it's got so much packed into it, because it's telling you when it says Call Me Ishmael, what that means is I'm not Ishmael, and so that's the hook right there, and we're in it, and it's just 3 words. That's Call Me Ishmael. Yeah, 3 words. It blows me away, man.
Yeah, and in this particular hook that you've got, you also, you put the prank right up there, front and center. So there's immediate intrigue as to, how has this prank gone so wrong that most of us are dead. I like that most of us are dead too, because it's like, well, hang on, not all of us are dead. What's happening here? And they're feeling kind of guilty about it. They're not 100. So there's so much. But I got to say, in terms of pranks, I mean, pranks and slashers, they go hand in hand.
Yeah.
I mean, if there wasn't a prank, there wouldn't be a Scream movie franchise. There wouldn't be the vast majority of slasher movies. So it's this playfulness that, I mean, it's almost what makes the slasher unique and special in terms of subgenres within horror.
No, I totally agree. The prank is essential to the slasher, and sometimes a prank takes the like shape of a trespass, or but it's always like you can frame it as a prank. If that's how I like to frame it, anyways, because it makes it more fun. But yeah, if you don't have a prank, then you don't have an imbalance of the justice scales, and if you don't have that imbalance of justice scales, then you don't have any reason for a spirit of vengeance to come and straighten those scales.
And so I wonder, taking it to real life, what is the best or the worst prank gone wrong that you have been part of, whether you were the instigator, the victim, or somewhere in between?
Yeah, the probably the worst one I've been involved in is I have in high school, I had a friend who was terrified of trains. He has had this like irrational fear of trains. And so one night we're coming home in Stanton, Texas, and it's probably about 2 a.m. And I was I had a short bed Chevy, 67 short bed Chevy, and I was driving, and we had some train tracks that cut through town, and it was kind of up on a hump, at a big intersection, that the train tracks were up on what do they call it? Anyway, they were you had to go kind of up and down, and he was kind of like nodding off. He wasn't all the way awake, And so I gently eased the truck onto those tracks and killed it, And I woke him up real fast, and I said, dude, we're on the tracks. What's gonna happen? And he woke up, and he woke up at 100 miles per hour. He was terrified. He was having a panic attack over there in the side of my truck, and I thought that was the most hilarious thing ever. And I let that go on for a while until he was all the way awake, And then I reached down and turned the key to start my truck to go on home. And the truck wouldn't start, and then a light pops on right down the tracks because the train is coming, and the barriers came down on either side of the truck. And so we're trying to start the truck, and the train is coming, and the truck finally started, but I had to do like a 42-point turn to get around those arms that come down, and it quit being funny pretty quickly.
Oh my God, you were so close to being part of a Final Destination movie.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
Oh, wow.
I mean, you wanted to give him a scare. You went the extra mile. You really delivered. Did he still hang out with you after that?
Oh yeah. I think he's the only person. He's the only person in high school I still talk to. I haven't talked to him for about 5 months, but we still talk. Yeah.
I mean, that is the test of a true friendship. If you can almost get mowed down by a train. Did it cure his fear at least?
No. It just magnified his distrust of me.
Oh my goodness. And I mean, in terms of we've got the pranks, but the other element, of course, is Mannequins, something that is inherently creepy, another thing that goes hand in hand with horror. So do you remember when you first saw a mannequin in horror?
Oh, in horror? Oh, let me think about that. I think in horror, the first one I saw in horror would probably have been Tourist Trap,
Yep.
Is that 79 about right around there?
I think so. 77, 79. Chuck Connors. I watched it again last year. It's probably like the 5th time I've seen it, and
it's fun, isn't it?
Very disturbing movie.
Yeah, it is.
Very disturbing. It is.
But I think my first personal brush with Mannequins would have been when I was probably, I don't know, maybe 4 years old, maybe not quite 4 years old. We have a store out in West Texas we used to back in the 70s called Dunlap's, DUNLAP''S. Did y'all have that down in South Texas, Bob?
No,
Dunlap's
we didn't have it. I mean, I think I've heard of it, and I think we might have seen it in our travels, but I never had it in town.
It's just a department store, like a Dillard's and a Montgomery Ward's or a Bell's, all that stuff, Anyways, my mom went there to try on clothes, and she, pulled me along with her, and she parked me outside the dressing room while she went and changed clothes. And there was mannequins all around, like they do on the podiums and everything. And so they were kind of creepy, but I wasn't creeped out. But then while I'm sitting there just waiting for my mom to finish trying on all these clothes, she starts screaming and screaming and screaming, and the whole store collapses on the dressing room. And it turns out that while she was changing clothes in there, a scorpion had bit her, and so I think, and I didn't really understand what was going on. I was too young to really make sense of it all. And the sales associates were trying to, keep me safe and happy and all that stuff. But maybe that could be where Mannequins got into my head,
So when it happened, did your brain go to this place where you thought a mannequin had attacked her? Was that your initial?
No, I wish I could say that, but no, it was more like there were mannequins in the area and she was screaming. I didn't make the connection,
Yeah. Oh my God. It's kind of changing and getting bit by a scorpion. Is that a regular occurrence? Kind of near.
Well, there's in West Texas. There's a lot of scorpions, a lot of centipedes, a lot of tarantulas, and those are all things you can deal with. The wind scorpions, those things are the dangerous ones. They call them camel spiders when they're bigger out in the Middle East, But the little ones, I think, are even, to me, the little ones are meaner. The same way with actual scorpions. The littler the scorpion is, generally the more dangerous it is, as I understand. I haven't tested it myself. I've only read that. But the real thing to be worried about in West Texas sneaking into your house are rattlesnakes, of course, because anywhere a mouse can go, a snake can go. And when it gets cold, the snakes like to come into schools or stores, and they crawl up the walls and go on the ceilings and sleep on top of the warm lights. And sometimes you'll turn the light on and you'll see a snake up there, or they like to go under the dishwashers too. And so you'll sometimes smell them down there, and they just like to den up, and it's not great, but I don't know. It's the way it is.
Yeah, like I feel you're far more exposed to dangerous animals than I have been in my life. I mean, in England, there's basically nothing. And then, even moving to Japan, I mean, there are bears and things like that, but they're up in the mountains. Although recently there have been more and more of them coming down into town.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's neat. That's neat.
And we have centipedes and stuff, but they don't wander into the changing rooms. So
Really?
I've not had that experience yet.
Well, we would periodically, like not every year, but every few years, I guess the tarantulas are on some schedule. They hang out underground until they all come up at once, and so the first time that happened, I was probably like 8 years old, and I remember driving down the road with my granddad, and the whole road was washed like sun bleached gray. It wasn't black anymore. The whole road was black and crawling for as far as we could see, because they were moving from one pasture to another. It had to be like 3 million tarantulas, and we didn't want to run over them because they're pretty little things, but we had to get somewhere too, so we just had to churn through the tarantulas, but it was weird seeing that many tarantulas at once, man.
Yeah, I would have turned around and went back. I don't like bugs. I mean, I understand that, the spiders are necessary, right? But, I don't, especially flying bugs, especially like wasp, any bug that can hover like a helicopter, I'm fucking out, man. If you want to see me freak out, it's like, I'm not afraid of much, but if I get around a wasp or something like that, it's like, what's wrong with Bob? He was screaming like a girl. Like, because I was freaked out because of a fucking wasp.
I got chewed up by wasps pretty bad last summer. I was reaching up under my Jeep to do something to the back of the gas cap or something up there, and I hadn't driven this Jeep for a couple of months, and so I'm like down on a knee and I'm reaching up there, and I think my hand sure is cold, and then after about 4 seconds I realized it's not cold, it's like on fire, because I'd stuck my hand into a wasp nest and they were all biting me. But I think that's the way wasps, like their venom or whatever they have must be designed like that, because it doesn't hit you for like 2 or 3 seconds, and then it hits you. But that allows more of them to pile on and get you at the same time. And but I didn't swell up too bad. I've had wasps bite me in the lip and the eye. They've bit me all over. One morning I woke up. We were building this house as we were living in it, and so when we moved into it, it's pretty much frame and tar paper, so that it was open to the elements. And I remember one morning I woke up to that same coldness, and wasps had all come in and landed on my neck, and I had moved like this, and they all were biting me on the neck.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. But the ones I was scared of are the ones that hang around peach trees, those Mexican wasps, which they have another name. I never can remember it. They're they have a more formal name, but they're those big black dudes that are like that big, and they have the orange wings. Those guys, I've never met one of those. My mom has, and she says it hurts crazy. But I watch the people on YouTube who like to let insects bite them and record it, and that's usually like the number 2 worst one, I think, is that wasp.
Yeah, and they can sting you repeatedly. That's the thing that bugs me more than anything else. A bee, you get stung by a bee, the bee's going to die because the stinger's barbed. But wasp stingers are smooth, and so they can just drag it all over you. Yeah,
if we could figure out, if we could get them little ink pots, they could be tattoo artists. They could do little designs on us. Man, that's why the tracker jackers and the Hunger Games were so scary, because they were like wasps on steroids and radiation and everything else.
Wow, you're giving me ideas.
Well, since we're talking about violence in a sense, I want to know, how do you approach writing about violence?
Man, how do I approach that? I think I don't let myself look away. And I try to turn on as many senses as I can. But more important, those are just like outer things. I think the internal thing you have to do is not let it be violence for violence's sake. It has to have some story meaning, some story purpose. It's the same as a sex scene. Like a sex scene in a story just for the sex is a failure. I think if the sex scene is some sort of negotiation or power play or whatever's going on, then it matters. Then it earns its place on the page. And I think it's the same with violence. If it has to earn its place on the page.
Yeah, and I think similarly, without giving spoilers away, so treading pretty carefully, I mean, a lot of this book is about the desensitization of violence and mental health struggles. And I mean, a real dangerous and prescient combination. And in a way, I feel this is perhaps even more relevant now in 2026 than it was when you originally released it a few years back.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. I like that. That's pretty cool. But yeah, thank you for saying that. Yeah, I don't disagree. It wasn't intentional, but it's just that's the way Sawyer is, So he came on the page like that.
Yeah, and so that I did want to ask in terms of you said you don't plan ahead when you're writing, but how much did you know about Sawyer going in? And if not a lot, then at what point did Sawyer's nature, let's say, become apparent?
That's a good question. It's probably when he goes to see Tim. That's when I was like, this guy has some things going on, Because I felt like I knew him in a way in the theater when he thinks he's seeing, or when he thinks he is seeing Manny leave, and the lights go down, and he feels like he's untethered and floating. I felt like that was a moment where I really thought this is somebody I can work with, But I felt like I didn't know his nature until he went to Tim's house a few nights later.
And it occurs to me as you're saying that we haven't actually told people. So for those who haven't read it yet and they're interested in reading it, we haven't told them what that opening prank is.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was assuming, right? It's there's Sawyer's cousin Shanna has a usher job at a movie theater, a Cineplex, and Sawyer and some of Shanna's friends are going to prank her by sneaking a mannequin into the theater, and then saying, hey, that guy didn't pay his ticket, and Shanna would go check on him to get his ticket stub, and he would be a mannequin. That'd be hilarious, And it's a mannequin they found randomly a few summers before, and it was a big fun thing for a while. Then they forgot about it like you do.
Yeah, it is an amazing prank, and
yeah.
So at least somebody listening has got to try this out.
It was complicated, though, getting that mannequin into the theater past the ushers, Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, nowadays, as when I wrote this in 2018, and so we were already living in the world we're living in right now, pretty much. And you can't bring backpacks and stuff like that. You've got to hide the pieces of the mannequin under your baggy clothes and do it in other ways. Like they figure it out, they navigate it, but it takes a lot of work.
I think it would be way easier to do in Japan because Japan is quite a trusting culture.
Really?
Often, even though there is an usher on the front entrance, there's not one on the exit if there's a film that's not ending. So you could literally just walk in with the mannequin and get to the screens that way.
Wow, that's cool.
I'm not condoning it for anyone living in Japan, but you could do that. Then you could get the usher and be like, whoa, check out seat A24, for example.
Yeah, that's nice.
It'd have to be A24.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. But the fun thing is that, like, seeing a mannequin out of context will startle you. If you're not expecting it, it'll get to you.
Mannequin out of context. I just love that as a phrase. And obviously we mentioned the Romero nod. Sawyer has to be a nod, surely, to Tobe Hooper and Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah, a little bit. In my head, every time I wrote Sawyer, I heard Family Saw. Like he's got a family and his name is Saw, so he was the Family Saw.
Yeah. And there is a shift and a reveal at around the 65% mark, and that really changes the tone of the book. It's something on rereads where you can see, okay, I see how it was kind of going in that
Mhm.
direction all
Mhm.
along. But how did you approach the shift? And was that something that then did require quite a bit of editing to just make sure that it landed right?
Not really. No, I mean, I think what happened, and this usually happens in the longer things I write. I get to about that point, about 2/3 through, and I think this isn't exciting enough. We gotta drop a bomb, And so I just I'll drop some sort of bomb into the story. I mean, not like in the stand because I don't want everybody to die, But but and I just like to drop it, but it's not a test drop. That's the rule I give myself. I can't just see if it works. I've got to drop it, and the novel either dies here or it figures out a way to incorporate it. And that's really fun.
And so, in terms of dropping the bomb, as
Mm-hmm.
you put it,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how
Mm-hmm.
many times has it died? And what do you do
Yeah,
in the situation where it dies?
that's a good point. It's I guess one thing that would be that would influence my decision would be, is this a work that I've already promised to someone? If it is, then I might have to go back and break my own rule and undo the bomb or something. I don't know. I don't think I've ever had any of them die though, because I feel like if they die, then I'm failing at my own challenge, because I'm telling myself I've got to incorporate it, I've got to make it work. And I did it in Mapping the Interior too. Probably about the same point in the story, actually. Maybe about 55% in that story. But um, I love to do things that to me are kind of out of the blue, and then have to figure out after they happened, how do I make that work? Or how do I make that something that did work? And it's so challenging, and it's so you learn a lot about yourself as a writer, I think, when you make yourself do that.
See, I like this because essentially the answer is failure isn't an option.
Yeah, pretty much, man. Yeah, yeah. But by that point, too, I've fallen in love with the characters in the world enough that, yes, failure is not an option, because I want to hold on to them. I want them to be shared with other people.
And when you're teaching creative
Mm.
writing, I mean, how do you drill or how do you impart just the importance of this fearlessness and taking risks in your writing?
I try to model it. I mean, I try to tell them the same stuff I'm telling y'all. Like, this is how I write, and you know, it's been a long time not working, I don't think, and maybe it's hit some point where it occasionally works. But I always push them to do the stupidest, wildest, over the top stuff they can, and I think you just learn so much. Like, tell you the truth, I don't get a whole lot out of really quiet, subdued stories. I mean, I can read them, I can study them, I can analyze them, but give me something loud, and I'll be a lot happier.
And when you're teaching these courses, is the nature of the student that is attracted to your classes?
Mhm.
Are they typically writing things that are more within horror
Yeah.
or action genres?
Well, within genre, anyways. When I first started teaching back in 2000, I had to put a little disclaimer at the top of my syllabus that in this workshop, you're going to write at least one genre story. It might be science fiction, it might be horror, it might be fantasy, it might be werewolves, it might be whatever, but you're going to do one story like that. And invariably, two or three hands would go up, and they would say, "Really, I'm going to write a pirate story?" And I'd say, "Yeah, you're going to write something like that." And I would generally have two or three students walk out like in protest and drop the class. But it didn't matter because I always had a big wait list. Other people filed in. But about 2008, there was some sort of change. I don't know what it was, or I suspect what it was. But around 2008, students started coming and only writing genre. Hardly any of my undergrads ever write literary fiction anymore. It's all, with a photon blaster on an asteroid shooting spaceships, that kind of stuff, or a lot of fantasy, really, a whole lot of fantasy, a lot of young adult. And so I was able to take that off my syllabus, and I'm really happy. And I'm pretending like this is like a unilateral thing across all programs. It could be that it took me that long to become established in the program I was teaching in as the genre person. So I could be attracting all the genre people. I'm like a lint roller that picks up all the horror and science fiction and fantasy people.
The lint roller of horror literature.
Yeah, but I do think that, I suspect that why genre became the default setting. I feel like it might have had something to do with The Brief Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde by Junot Diaz, which was, unabashedly in love with genre stuff. Oscar Wilde, he's a comic book dude, and he lives in that world and he breathes in that world. And I think the book won the Pulitzer, and that kind of gave genre a legitimacy that it maybe hadn't had a lot before. And I think, when did The Road happen? Do y'all remember what year The Road was? Cormac McCarthy? I don't remember. I wonder if it feels like I don't know. I just can't remember.
I feel like
anymore.
It's like 2005.
Yeah, that's what it feels like to me too. It feels early 2000s to me.
Yeah.
But it's a post-apocalyptic novel by one of our most celebrated literary writers, and I wonder if like The Road and Oscar Wilde were like a 1-2 punch. Really getting genre on the scene in a different way. I don't know.
Yeah, The Road was
2006.
there you go. Bob got there just before me. 2006, yeah.
And I said it just before it came out, too. Yeah.
Yeah, do you think that genre is continuing to get more legitimacy?
I do. I feel like the way I always think about it is, I think of all the genre. I think of all of literature as like a circus. We're all ridiculous clowns running around doing our jokes. But I think there's a big tent in the middle of the circus grounds, the fairgrounds, and that's usually literary fiction. And then there's little satellite tents. There's fantasy, science fiction, western, spy, historical, thriller, all that stuff, and horror, a lot of horror. But I feel that of all those satellite tents, horror was always way out in the darkness. And I felt like the other genres were standing around, eating popcorn at the fairgrounds, looking out at our lights in the darkness and saying, let's let those weirdos just keep doing their weirdo things. They're doing blood gags to scare each other. They don't matter. They are doing books, but they don't matter in the same way we matter. But I feel like, man, right around 2016, when when Jordan Peele, was that 2016? Yeah, I think it was 2016 when he had to Get Out. That established or signaled to the world at large that horror is in dialogue with current contemporary issues, and the world turned around and noticed. And then Victor Laval gives us The Ballad of Black Tom, which did the same exact thing. That was I think that was just a few months later. And I think those two works really did a great thing for genre, or for horror specifically. They pulled us all into the big tent, more or less. And now that we're in the big tent, we're having fun. We're piling out of clown cars and piling into other clown cars and fighting lions and all that. And it's great. But it's weird too. It's weird being in the big tent. I think it's not where we're accustomed to being outsiders. We're accustomed to looking in, at the legitimate stuff. But now we have a little bit of that legitimacy ourselves, and who knows what we're going to do with it? Hopefully something good. My only concern about that dynamic is, for the longest time, the horror community, we had a sense of solidarity because nobody else wanted us, and so we wanted each other, kind of, that kind of thing. But now that other people outside of horror are looking at horror, I hope that solidarity that we've had for so long doesn't go away,
Mm-hmm. I think that's a great analogy too, because it feels like ever since, like the circus and having the little satellite tents and all that kind of stuff. And over since 2016, horror has slowly like, hey, can we borrow some tent poles? And I need that canvas right there. Thanks. And we just did our own little thing. And next thing you know, they're like going, hey, their tent's bigger than ours. I'm just going to go there. Don't say anything. Come along if you want. And that's what we're getting. But I also feel you on the solidarity thing. I hope it it continues on. Yeah. And we're at probably the biggest horror renaissance that I've ever seen. And I'm 58. So I've seen 3 of them, and so it's, I hope we can ride it through.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too. I mean, I think that like everybody is worried about horror like being a fad because fads fall down. They get too heavy and fall down, like monster trucks or hair metal in the 80s. They both got too big and fell down, But I think what might give horror longer legs than it would usually have is that it's not all focused on one person. It's not like there's not a central poll, I guess there's a lot of polls because diverse voices are now telling a lot of the horror. So I think the foundation for this current moment of horror is a lot more stable. So many people who were previously marginalized are telling some of the best horror stories, and I think that's going to let horror, this boom, this renaissance, whatever you want to call it, I think it's going to let it last longer. And I think even, the same way the zombie renaissance started in like 2002 with 28 Days Later and Brian Keene's, The Rising. And it should have probably gone over by 2010. But what had happened by 2010 was the Walking Dead TV show had taken over the world. And that became something that propped up the zombie renaissance for artificially long, so long. But, and it not to anything's detriment. It was a blast. I'm not at all sad about it. I love it. But I think that's what our really strong, diverse foundation for the current moment in horror is going to do for horror. It's going to let it last longer than it would have otherwise.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, and I think as well, not only are we seeing literary fiction embrace horror to a point, but we're also seeing, I think it was a few weeks ago, George Saunders did an event with Paul Tremblay. So, they're coming together. And also Tin House put out Mystery Lights, the short story collection by Lena Valencia, which again is definitely a genre collection.
And I think that guy who wrote Monstrilio also came out of the Tin House workshops anyways. And Monstrilio is pretty good. It's very literary, very good, I think.
Yeah. Tin House have recently been sending me press releases and asking about getting people on This Is Horror. That would not have happened when we started in 2013.
No, that would not have all have happened. You're totally right, man. Yeah.
But, talking again about Night of the Mannequins, you've said before that often Ellen Datlow either gives you a note or says something that helps shape the direction of a story or inspires you. So I'm wondering, what was the Ellen Datlow influence for Night of the Mannequins?
Man, let me think. I honestly do not remember. It's been 8 years since I've looked at those notes, so I have zero memory of. I know she had some input because she always has wonderful input, and I love how Ellen is so direct. Like, she doesn't mince her words. She'll tell you, "Well, why'd you do this? It's stupid." And I'm like, I don't know. I guess I'm stupid. It could be, but it's good to work with someone like that. I think she's on top of the anthology game and the editor game for a reason. But I just have no memory about the revision process. I've probably done, 13 or 12 books since then, or I don't know, maybe 10. And so they've all piled on each other. And I wish I was one of those people who wrote books to remember them, but I don't. I write books kind of to forget them, so I can do the next book and forget it, and then do the next one and forget it. I don't have enough room in my head to store them all, I guess.
Yeah, this is the kind of danger of when we're promoting and we're talking about our books. It's like, well, the one fresh in my mind is the one that I'm writing now, which will probably be released in 2 years. But
yeah, that's how it always is, man. Yeah. But so people tell me things about my novels, and I think, well, that's a pretty good idea. I should do that. And then I think, wait, you must have done that if they're telling it to you.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Have you found that in recent years your approach to marketing has shifted?
Yeah, I've got a lot of different I've usually got a couple of marketing teams all around me, like different marketers and publicists and booking agents and stuff like that. And so, yeah, it's changed in that I have to decline so much stuff just because there's not enough time in the day to do everything, So I have to be somewhat selective, but luckily it's usually not me doing the selecting. The publicist and all those people, they just tell me, okay, you're gonna do this one, and there's 4 more you're not doing, but that's the way it is. And so I just do whatever they say, and it seems to work out. I found if I get too involved in it, it all just goes bad.
Right. And I suppose too, if you've got the marketing team and the publicist telling you what to do, then you've got more time and more brain capacity to be, doing what we want to be doing, which is the creativity and the writing.
Exactly. You were talking earlier about having 8 hours and just kind of twiddling your thumbs for 8 hours. That's the same way for me. If I ever have a day where I look ahead of it and I think, oh, I can get up at 7:30 and write until 10 o'clock in like hour and a half little jumps. I generally won't do that because that is it's a different sort of time. To me, the time I write best in is stolen time. If I'm supposed to be picking somebody up at the airport, if I'm supposed to be at a meeting, if I'm supposed to be like going to the UPS office to get a lost package or whatever it is, if I tell myself, you know what, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to write a story. I'm going to write a chapter instead. Then I'd get so much more work done. I just think stolen time is so much more precious. You just got to deal with the disappointment of all the people around you because they're the ones you're stealing time from.
No, I totally relate to that. And I mean, it is because, as you said, it's precious. So, I mean, at the moment, I have a 3-month-old son. So any writing time is, very much in the cracks between everything else that encompasses. But it means that when I get to sit down and I write, I am bloody well writing because it's probably going to be the only hour or, let's be honest, 40-minute chunk that I've got in that day.
Exactly. And you treat each sentence differently when you've got a 3-month-old sleeping in the other room because they can wake up at any period, and so this might be the last sentence, this might be the last sentence, that might be the last sentence. And that to me is wonderful,
Yeah. And sometimes he's not even sleeping the other end. He's in the carrier. I am writing and his head is there.
That's how I wrote Demon Theory. I wrote it in a chair that had a busted back, so it would lean back far. And so I would lean back with my son on my chest and reach forward, and I wrote the whole book with him on my chest,
Yeah. Yeah. But then, we contrast that to the 8-hour days. And well, since I've got 8 hours, I can waste 1 hour. It doesn't, time becomes less precious.
It does.
And then, I'll tend to then waste more time and then be annoyed at myself for wasting the time. So you might as well plan to busy yourself within the day.
I totally agree. Yeah, like the more I commit to, the more I get done. So I don't know why. I wish it didn't work like that because it leaves me pretty exhausted.
Yeah. Well, we've got a number of Patreon questions, so I want to ask those now so we don't run out of time and neglect them. So to begin with, from Tino Ibarra. So Tino says, just finished Killer on the Road. Was it set in the 90s to keep cell phones out of the picture? Or just like that era or something else?
The reason it was set when it was that I really wanted some cameos in there, some truck cameos like BJ and the Bear and Snowman from Smokey and the Bandit. There's a few like different iconic big rigs and big rig associated like cars in Killer of the Road. Just you see them in the background, and if you know them, you know them. If you don't, it doesn't matter that you don't. But to get those onto the highway and be recognized by Harper and her friends, or one of her friends anyways, I couldn't set it up in 2018 because nobody thinks about Sheriff Lobo and BJ and the Bear in 2018. But in the 90s, the 80s were still in our rearview mirror. In the 80s is when all those things were moving through the world, So it's basically just because I wanted those truck cameos. That's why I said it then.
I love it. It all came down to trucks, and that is, other people, you'd be like, is that really the answer? But with you, I can absolutely believe it.
That is like the most Stephen Graham Jones answer you could ever get. Like, it's the epitome.
Well, Arthur Vinicius wants to know about the creation of Jade from Indian Lake and the protagonist from Mongrels, and what inspired the appearance of Dark Mill South. Wow, that's a 3-in-1.
Yeah, that's a lot. Dark Mill South, as I say in the acknowledgments of Don't Fear the Reaper, like I always misheard Jerry Reed's song. Now I'm blanking on the title. Amos Moses. I always there's a character in there called Doc Millsap, and I always have misheard that as Dark Mill South, and so that's where his name comes from. As for why he was in that book, it's because I needed basically to do that magician thing where you keep this hand moving so the other hand can do something, and he was that moving hand. He was the thing in the story that was obviously, a mad dog killer kind of thing, and so while he was pulling the reader's eyes that way, I could do some other fun stuff on the other side of the story. As for where Jade came from, she didn't show up in the first draft of My Heart is a Chainsaw. I wrote that first draft in 2013, and it was a wildly, wildly different novel. And I came back to it in 2018. I thought, there's something there. I think it's my first time I've ever done that too. And so I thought, I'm just going to rewrite this whole novel from the ground up. And I kept a version of Sheriff Hardy. I kept Sheriff Hardy. He used to be Sheriff D'Agostino, I think. And I kept Indian Lake, and I kept Terra Nova and Proof Rock. But I don't think any other characters made it across the divide from draft to draft. And I wrote it, and it wasn't working, so I kind of scrubbed it and started all over. And this time, I thought it might be fun to tell the story from the morning after the massacre. And I didn't know what the massacre was going to be. I knew there was going to be dead people in the water, and so I did that. I walked the story out onto the pier, and there was bodies floating all in the lake, which I thought was a pretty cool visual. And then I had to ask myself, who's going to tell this story? And who told the story was Jade. She, if y'all remember in Apocalypse Now, when Martin Sheen is in the river and he comes up in that face paint out of the water, that's what Jade did. She comes up out of the water. There's a draft of her where she does that. She comes up out of the water, and she has a notebook, and she's doing her muttering, and she's talking about how she's going to figure out what happened here. And that's going to be the book that gets her out of Idaho. And so that's how Jade happened, As for the kid in Mongrels, he's pretty much me, so he was really easy. Like him and Tolly from I Was a Teenage Slasher are very, very thinly disguised versions of me, so they took no work at all,
Yeah, and I mean, talking about slashers, one of the things you said in your acknowledgements for this book is that you are always telling your wife slasher stories, but she doesn't actually like slashers.
No, she doesn't. But she's the only one there. What am I supposed to do?
Have you at least ever found a slasher film or a slasher story that appealed to her? And if not, is this why you keep telling her? You're like, look, there's got to be one. Yeah. There's one for her.
Yeah. I mean, if she would read I Was a Teenage Slasher, she might go for it because it's kind of a love story, But no, I don't think I found one that she actually goes for. I think if I could ever get her to watch Final Girls from 2015, she might go for that one. It's kind of goofy, and slapstick, but it's got a really tender heart, I think.
So if you do, or when you do watch films together, what's kind of the compromise? What do you like watching together?
We're all over the place, man. It can be a spy movie. It can be, it can be Step Brothers. Like we watch all kinds of stuff. I think the last movie we watched together, it was 2 nights ago, was Jay Kelly on Netflix, which was fun. And before that, it was one of the Agatha Christie's Appointment with Death. That's what it was and so we're just all over the board. But the one place that we always know we can find where we can meet in the middle is any Star Trek. We can watch any Star Trek all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, no, the movies you mentioned that are on Netflix, they're both on my to-watch list. But again, having the 3-month-old son, there's not been a lot of watching.
No, there's not. Yeah.
Yeah. And certainly not watching stuff with my wife. It's more like, in those cracks in between when I'm looking after him and maybe put something on the computer and through the headphones. So is that kind of how you watch a lot of slashers these days? Are you having to find these secret pockets of time when your wife
my evenings are generally pretty free, so I can watch a slasher when I want to. And I do, of course. I try to go to the theater for them when I can to support them, in the way that will help more of them get to the big screen. But I watch a lot of them at home as well, and I carry them with me on my laptop so I can watch them when traveling. Also,
yeah. Well, what is it that you're working on at the moment?
Let's see. I think in the last 2 weeks I've sold 2 stories. Well, maybe I guess I can't say to where. Maybe I can say to where. One is to Uncanny, one is to Conjunctions. One's a literary story. One is kind of a science fiction story. And I'm currently in notes on something that has not been announced, so I'll definitely get my wrist slapped if I talk about that. But it's very fast notes. I'm trying to be done. I started it 3 days ago, and I'm trying to be done in about 8 days from now. So I've got a tall order to get, because I want to get done before I go on tour for Mannequins, because I don't want to bring work with me. I want to do other work while I'm on the road with Mannequins.
See, before I said that the difficulty with promotion is that it's been a long time since you wrote the book, but now we've discovered the other difficulty is what you are working on. You usually can't talk about, so there's actually it's lose-lose. There's nothing.
I know. It's like there's a really wide chasm in the middle, and there's like a little happy place on each side, you know?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. And I mean, I said before about you living kind of near Hollywood. I mean, nearer than me, at least. I am aware California is a pretty big state, but do you have any kind of movie news that you can talk about? That's probably a big caveat.
Not that I can talk about. I did write, a producer, right when Mannequins came out, a producer wanted me to, they loved it, and they said, get me a script. And so, you know, I can do scripts. So I wrote one up, and then it didn't go, it ended up not going anywhere. So I just had it in a drawer. And then I saw a film that I really liked on Tubi, and I ended up meeting the director. And the director, I probably shouldn't say who it is. It's a guy. I guess I'm saying that already, right? He really liked Mannequins, and I showed him the script, and he rewrote the script such that it fit kind of his aesthetic and where he thought the story could go. And so Mannequins is currently bouncing around trying to find a happy place to get made. But yeah, like Buffalo Hunter and Good Indians, Teenage Slasher are all in different stages of maybe right now, you know, and they've got different people attached, but none of it has been announced. I never really pushed for it getting announced. I just figure it'll find the news when it finds the news, whatever, you know.
Yeah, different stages of maybe is pretty much par for the course for so much within Hollywood.
Yeah, it really is, yeah.
I mean, especially because typically or kind of traditionally the Hollywood no is just walking away. So even a no, it's a strong negative, maybe, I suppose, because it's never a straight no.
No, you're right. But what's cool about all three of these projects is they have really, really good people attached to them right now, and so they each have a good chance of like of those three projects, I would guess at least two of them find production, you know, and hopefully distribution.
Yeah. And when you said I can do scripts, I'm wondering if that is a Joe R. Lansdale I can do scripts, because famously, you know, he said, "Oh, I can write a script," and then had to learn how to write a script in about 24 hours. Or is this that you're actually regularly or semi-regularly writing scripts?
That was Joe did that for Dead in the West. Is that right? I think was it Dead in the West?
I think so.
Yeah. And he talks about his son under the desk hitting him with a plastic hammer in the crotch the whole time.
I mean, I don't know if that's a motivator, but it's fucking something, isn't it? That's one way to do it.
No, man, Joe is the best. If I could claim anybody as a mentor for me, it'd be Joe Lansdale, because he's taught me so much. We've hung out so much, but he's somebody who's been through everything and done it all, and he remembers it all, and he's a model of how we should all comport ourselves, you know. And I really feel honored to call him a friend, and he's definitely an idol. But no, I you know, back when this would have been 2001, I signed on with the outfit in New York City to write thrillers for them, and they didn't trust me to have my own brain to write thrillers, and so they pushed me through all the Robert McKee seminars. Do you know about those Robert McKee seminars, the story seminars? He's got story.
I do.
Yeah, and so they flew me all over everywhere, and I went to a lot of weekends of those, and I had already taken screenwriting classes in graduate school, and I had been writing screenplays on my own, not with any plans. I was just trying to figure out the form. And And I got a lot more of it from that seminar. And then I started hanging out with screenwriters. I started teaching at a low residency program that had a lot of screenwriters. And we were always talking movies, talking scripts. And I mean, Demon Theory kind of comes out of my fascination with screenplays. It's that hybrid prose plus, I don't know, screenplay syntax or format. And I did that again in Last Final Girl. I did it in Zombie Bake Off. I really love writing in that form. But I really like scripts, and what I like about scripts is how rigid they are. I love the beats, the formula, and I'm very aware that most fiction writers, when they sit down to write a script, the main challenge is how can I make this story fit in that formatting, but that's not what it is. It's like you've got to tear it down to little building blocks and puzzle them together in a completely different way and strip out so much stuff and leave room for the director to leave their imprint, and the actors to leave their flavor on it and everything. Scripts are terribly, terribly hard, but sometimes you read one like by Shane Black or somebody and you're like, that is how it's done, and or like Eric Red, that dude's scripts, I think his scripts are killer,
Yeah, it's a completely different process, and it's very much a collaboration. And I feel you really can't be so precious about the story, because I mean, they could completely change it. They could bring in a different writer to rewrite your script. And as you say, it's not, and apart from very rare occurrences such as Roman Polanski's adaptation of Rosemary's Baby, it's rarely a kind of beat by beat faithful retelling. It's almost like a cover version. It's like we're riffing on it.
But sometimes it's better than the book too. Those are really exciting when that happens. But there are those very few writers who have the ability to adapt their own work, like Gillian Flynn. Is it Gillian or Gillian? I always get that confused. But the Gone Girl writer.
Yeah, I think it's Gillian.
Gillian Flynn. Yeah, she wrote. I mean, she did the screenplay for the Gone Girl film, if I remember correctly. And I was really impressed with that because, like, I got offered to write the script for Buffalo Hunter, and I declined. I said, this book is going to take a lot of violence to fit into 2.5 hours. And I'm not sure I'm the one that's going to have the objectivity to do that violence. We need someone from the outside who can do that. And because I care about the project more than like my name and a credit or something, or maybe I do right now. Who knows what the future holds?
In many ways, I mean, your books, we've said before, a lot of your books, they are as near to a slasher movie without being a slasher movie. But then at the same time, if it was a slasher movie, it would be different as well. So it's an interesting beast.
Oh, I should have said Last Final Girl, a screenwriter I know, he's done a lot of big horror. He's adapted Last Final Girl into the most killer screenplay. It is so good. I am so impressed with what he did with that, man. Yeah. And also there's a team who have adapted Mapping the Interior into a killer. I think they did a better job with the feature film adaptation than I did with the novella. And I had a friend recently adapt my story, Welcome to the Reptile House, to a feature film. And that was one of those cases where there wasn't enough story content for like an hour and 20 minutes. So he came up with more stuff and made it sing so well,
And in terms of when your stories are being pitched to studios, are you getting involved in those pitches?
I'm usually zoomed in, yeah. And I try not to say anything unless people ask, I'm just there to, like, it's weird. Like, I remember being in a Zoom with Susan Sarandon not long ago, and I was like, this is not something like 17-year-old Steven ever thought was going to happen,
Yeah, no, I've been part of a few pitches recently for one of my books, and it's one of the most surreal, but also amazing experiences. And talking about things that you wouldn't have imagined doing as a child.
For sure.
I mean,
for sure.
But so much of this journey, and it must be the same for you. There are things where it's like, wow, if my teenage self had known that I was going to be doing this or talking to these people,
no, definitely 100%, man. It's always weird. What really impresses me with those pitch sessions is like I'll like, let's say Mongrels is going out, and I'll do like 10 pitches in a row over 7 days, and it'll always be the writer doing the pitching. I'm just there to say he's good or something like that, and I'm so impressed that this writer has they turn on their pitch button and they can just get into salesman mode, and they are condensing and making it exciting and dropping jokes at the right time, and somebody's running the pitch deck, the lookbook, that kind of stuff, the slideshow, and it's really impressive. It's a really well-oiled machine. I like to watch it.
Yeah. And they ask for your input, and you're like, well,
Yeah.
exactly what he said. That was exactly what was about to come out of my mouth.
Yeah, exactly.
It's been covered.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Well, I wonder, what is something new that you have learned about writing or the business of writing in the last year?
I feel like I learn it all the time, but and I'm learning it right now when I'm in notes on this thing, that the order of the clauses in a sentence make all the difference. I know it's such an obvious thing to say, but if it's so obvious, why can't I internalize it and just do it right the first time? So when I'm peeling through this book, I'll realize this sentence will have 3 commas, but it could get by with 0 commas if I reorder the clauses, and what I used to remind myself that there's a clearer, more direct way to write is I'll go back and read Steven Pinker's book, something like A Sense of Style or something. It's a style book. It's a big one.
Yeah, I think it is called Sense of Style, but I know exactly the one you mean. Yeah.
It's real. He is so, and he both talks about how to do it well, and he does it well while he's talking about it. So he embodies it at the same time, which is really more compelling,
Yeah, that was one that came out in 2014, and I think I actually picked it up because you recommended it on the podcast.
Probably so. It's good, man. I like it. I don't know anything about Steven Pinker. I think he's at MIT. That's all I know about him. But I like the way he writes, anyways.
Yeah. Well, to finish, I've got a bit of a hypothetical for you. In fact, I've got a whole hypothetical. It isn't just a bit of it. That would be a really weird question. But if you couldn't write novels in the horror genre, would you rather write horror in another medium, or would you rather write in a different genre?
Different genre, for sure. Like I belong on the fiction page, I think. I mean, I can do comic books. I love comic books. So they're such a part of my DNA. And I love film and television and all that. And stage plays blow me away. And musicals, I love all that stuff. But the fiction page is my home. So if I was somehow barred from writing horror, if I used up all my credits, and then maybe I write action or westerns or romantic comedies or just comedy. I don't know. I do, but I love getting it all right on the page. It just thrills me so much.
Yeah, I can imagine, you being told to write like a romance, and then if we look at it, it's like structurally, he's done a fucking slasher.
Definitely.
Yeah,
definitely. I mean, I think the rom-com and the slasher, they have the same beats. It's just what counts as what's gore in one is like a makeout in another.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this has been tremendously fun, as it always is, chatting with you. So
thank you. It's been a ball. It's been too long since we talked, huh?
Yeah, no, we'll have to do it much sooner next time. But for our listeners and our viewers, where can people connect with you?
StephenGrahamJones.com and Blue Sky. Those are my main 2 places I hang out. I think I have an account still on Instagram. My publisher was running it for a while. I think it's still active, but
you do, because it also has like some disclaimer that says this is not Stephen Graham Jones. This is run by his marketing team.
Yeah. And I guess I'm on Goodreads too. I have an account there and lots of friends and stuff like that. I don't really know what to do on Goodreads. I don't know how to use Goodreads totally, but I'm there. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I like that your Instagram has got something saying explicitly it's not you. And then there is a profile on X, formerly Twitter, that says,
that's right.
I am not here. Don't follow me. This is just a placeholder so that no trolls, or however you phrased it, take over the account.
I forgot about that. That's totally right. Yeah, I spent like for 2 or 3 months, there were all these like whack-a-mole accounts popping up that were pretending to be me using my own avatar photos and stuff like that. And I couldn't tell the difference. I'm like, well, did I say that? But I didn't say that, you know?
I don't know. I mean, it probably becomes obvious when they're like, and buy this mattress and here's a 20% coupon code. Wow.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
was I ingesting when I put that post up?
Times are tough. He's peddling the Ray-Bans. Here we
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
Here we go.
Oh, man.
All right. Well, do you have any final thoughts to leave our listeners with?
Don't turn your back on a mannequin. That's basically it, man.
You can't get much better than that. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to Stephen Graham Jones on This Is Horror. Join us again next time when we will be chatting to CJ Lead about her early life, her evolution as a writer, and her books Mayfly and American Rapture. But if you would like to get that episode with CJ and every other episode of This Is Horror ahead of the crowd, please do become our patron at patreon.com/This Is Horror. As well as early bird access to each episode, you will get to submit questions to each interviewee. And later this week, we will be chatting to Ronald Melfi. So if you have a question for Ronald, the place to be is patreon.com/This Is Horror. And in addition to all the Patreon perks, you will be supporting independent horror podcasting and hopefully allowing me to ditch my day job and become a full-time podcaster and writer. Something I am aiming to do by the end of the year. After over 13 years of doing this podcast, this is such a pivotal year for me. And if you're in a financial position to do so, I'd love your support at patreon.com/This Is Horror. Okay, before I wrap up, a quick advert break.
It was as if the video had unzipped my skin, slunk inside my tapered flesh, and become one with me.
From the creator of This Is Horror comes a new nightmare for the digital age, The Girl in the Video by Michael David Wilson. After a teacher receives a weirdly arousing video, his life descends into paranoia and obsession. More videos follow, each containing information no stranger could possibly know. But who's sending them, and what do they want? The answers may destroy everything and everyone he loves. The Girl in the Video is The Ring meets Fatal Attraction for the iPhone generation. Available now in paperback, ebook, and audio. From the host of This Is Horror podcast comes a dark thriller of obsession, paranoia, and voyeurism. After relocating to a small coastal town, Brian discovers a hole that gazes into his neighbor's bedroom. Every night she dances and he peeps. Same song, same time, same wild and mesmerizing dance. But soon Brian suspects he's not the only one watching, and she's not the only one being watched. They're Watching is The Wicker Man meets Body Double with a splash of Suspiria. They're Watching by Michael David Wilson and Bob Pastorella is available from thisishorror.co.uk, Amazon, and wherever good books are sold.
Now recently I've received a number of emails from what I can only describe as scammy marketers and scammy book clubs trying to offer me so-called promotional opportunities in exchange for payment. And as I've been doing this for some time, they are pretty easy to spot. But if I was new to this, maybe they wouldn't be. In truth, it really depends on the email I get. Although sometimes it is fairly obvious, most of the time these emails will lavish your book with fake praise. Though sometimes it's obvious that they are full of shit when they call things like Daddy's Boy an incredibly literary accomplishment. And Daddy's Boy, for those not in the know, is basically a book full of dick jokes and a critique on masculinity and parental bonds if you dig a little further. The big point here is if somebody is out of the blue emailing you, promising to do things for you and your book and asking for a payment, they are very likely not good people. Almost all of the time, money should flow towards not away from the author. And there are very little exceptions to that. Now, if you are looking to promote your book, don't fall for these scams. It can be tempting when you're being promised tens of thousands of new readers, but it is rarely the reality. Now, I will be writing a little bit about this in a future This Is Horror newsletter with some advice as to how you can get attention free of charge, or for a much smaller amount and in more legitimate ways than these scam marketing schemes. But for now, if you're struggling, I would say choose a social media platform that you like, that you resonate with, and focus on growing that one. Focus on being consistent with one social media platform rather than spreading your attention too thin. So I wanted to get that out there so none of you fall prey to any of these scam marketing schemes that seem to be doing the rounds right now. And with that said, until next time with CJ Lead, take care of yourself, be good to one another, read horror, keep on writing, and have a great, great day.
This is Horror Podcast.